Have you ever thought about what it would actually take to round up and deport millions of people living in the United States? Yeah, I'm talking about the logistics, the costs, and how it would hit your wallet. From the price of your groceries to your home repairs. If mass deportation sounds like a simple solution, well, let's be honest, it's far from it. Hey everyone, I'm Steve, a retired search and rescue pilot, call sign Fire Demon. Today we're diving into the real world impacts of mass deportation. Everything from how it would logistically work to the hidden costs no one talks about. Hey, stick around with me because by the end, you're not going to want to miss what we uncover about how this impacts your everyday life. You'll also find out why I'm wearing this shirt. And listen, I've been around long enough to know how this goes. People often jump into the comments right about now with some emotional reaction, but if you're tempted to fire off an angry comment, stick around for a few minutes because the real world ripple effects of mass deportation might not be what you think they are. I absolutely bet I'm going to give you information you've never considered before. And I get it. Illegal immigration is a hot topic, and people are worried about the impact on jobs, public services, and safety. For many, mass deportation feels like the right thing to do, upholding the law and giving Americans access to jobs they feel are being taken from them by undocumented immigrants. And at first glance, deporting people might seem like the quick fix. I mean, maybe more jobs for citizens, less strain on schools and healthcare, safer communities with fewer people breaking immigration laws. But here's where things get tricky. When you look beneath the surface, the ripple effects of mass deportation might be bigger than we realize. Now let's talk about the logistics. Sure, it's easy to say, deport them all. But have you ever considered what that would really look like? I mean, tracking and detaining millions of people. Picture this, hundreds of ICE agents conducting raids in neighborhoods, workplaces, and even homes. It's not just disruptive, it's expensive. We'd need to hire and train thousands of additional agents. And once those millions are rounded up, where do they go? Our current detention centers aren't big enough. We'd have to build new large-scale facilities, and that means billions of dollars in construction. We need to think about holding and processing families. Have you seen the headlines about family separation? Now imagine that on a scale of millions. Parents held in one facility for men and another for women, children in yet another facility. The legal system is already overwhelmed. Processing this many cases could take months and even years. Hey, what about transportation and deportation? I mean, next comes the deportation itself. Moving millions of people isn't like buying a cheap one-way plane ticket. Each deportation cost about 10 grand, and here's why. It's not just the airfare. That number includes the entire process. Tracking the individual, detaining them, security escorts during the flight, and the administrative costs of deporting someone safely and legally. So when you hear that figure, it's not just the ticket itself. It's everything from start to finish. And now multiply that by millions of people. That's where the staggering costs come in. Hey, let's talk about the real costs because mass deportation isn't a quick fix and it's not cheap. Here's what we're paying for. Law enforcement manpower. New agents, their salaries, their benefits, their training, their administration. Building detention centers, new large-scale facilities to house millions of people. How many times are we going to use them? Maintaining detention centers, food, medical care, staffing, legal processing. Hundreds of new judges, more courtrooms and lawyers. Transportation, planes, buses, maybe even ships, and the logistics of moving millions. We also have to think about international negotiations. What happens if countries refuse to accept deportees? And what about the lost economic contribution? Billions in lost taxes, productivity, and labor. The total cost is estimated between $200 and $300 billion. Now think about how that money could be spent on schools, healthcare, infrastructure, and all things that improve your quality of life. Is it really worth it? Now, I'm wearing a Michigan State shirt today, so let's zoom in on Michigan. Michigan has an estimated 150,000-ish undocumented immigrants, and they play a critical role in agriculture and manufacturing. Without them, Michigan would face serious economic problems. Imagine this. Farms that rely on immigrant labor can't find enough workers to pick crops. Cherries, apples, and blueberries all left to rot in the fields. And when farmers can't harvest, what happens to food prices? They go way up and farmers make less money. Or think about the auto industry. Michigan's downstream factories rely on immigrant workers. Without them, production slows, costs go up, and other workers lose jobs as industries struggle to stay competitive. Now, a common argument I hear is, if we deport undocumented immigrants, that frees up jobs for Americans. Sure, it sounds good on paper, but have you ever thought about what happens when citizens aren't willing to take those jobs at the same low wages? Jobs in agriculture, construction, and hospitality are tough and low paying. If businesses have to raise wages to attract workers, what happens next? Think about it. Prices go up, and we're the ones that pay for it. Imagine walking into the grocery store and seeing that your $3 basket of strawberries is now $8. Or maybe you're out to dinner and that $10 burger suddenly becomes $15 because restaurants can't find workers at previous wages. And if you're planning to build or renovate your home, get ready for higher costs as construction wages rise. It's a domino effect, and it affects everyone's quality of life. And let me ask you, have you thought about how we would round up millions of people and logistically keep families together in detention facilities while they're being processed? Imagine separating parents from kids for weeks, maybe months, or even years while their cases are going through the system. If that sounds inhumane or impractical, you're not wrong. Don't we already have processes in place to handle immigration cases on a case-by-case basis? We do. And if those systems are overwhelmed, wouldn't it make more sense to fix the system instead of implementing a massive, expensive, and potentially cruel deportation scheme? Logically, it would. And this is the big question. What if instead of mass deportation, we focused on cleaning up our immigration laws and fixing the current system? Not too long ago, there was a bipartisan immigration reform bill that tried to do just that. It would streamline the system, improve legal pathways for immigrants, and increase resources for processing cases faster. Unfortunately, it was shot down by political candidates for their own gain, and it didn't make it through Congress. But here's what it included. See if this makes sense. The bipartisan bill was designed to tackle the exact problems we're discussing, except in a more practical and humane way. Here are a few key points it proposed. Boosting case processing capacity. It aimed to reduce the massive backlog in immigration courts by hiring more judges and giving more resources to speed up the process. This would ensure that cases are handled fairly and efficiently without leaving people in limbo for years. Creating legal pathways. Instead of mass deportation, it proposed pathways to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who met certain criteria like paying taxes and passing background checks. People who've been contributing to society would have a way to stay legally. Border security improvements. It also included border security upgrades with funding to improve monitoring and enforcement. So it wasn't ignoring the need for better border control. It was just a more balanced approach. So the next time someone suggests mass deportation as an easy solution, I encourage you to think about the bigger picture. The logistics, the costs, and the ripple effects are huge. Is this really the best way forward? It's easy to think of mass deportation as a quick fix to a complicated problem, but when you break it down, the financial and human costs are staggering. Maybe the better approach is to fix our immigration system so it works for everyone. And if you're firing off that angry comment right now, I bet you didn't watch the whole video, because if you did, you would know the secret word I'm going to ask you is elephant. Knowing that will be important when you post a nasty comment. Yeah, you'll see. So let's keep growing and learning together. Here are a couple more videos for you to keep thinking about and learning from. Thanks for watching, and as always, let me know what you think in the comments, but maybe think it through first. Until next time, see ya!